Hi there! In this video we're going to go over the predictions based on astrology that I made for the week of August 10, 2020. And let's see, my predictions for the stock market were that it would go up pretty much every day of the week. And in fact, on Monday we had mixed results where Nasdaq went down, Dow Jones went up. On Tuesday, market went down. Wednesday, as predicted, the market did go up. And Thursday and Friday, again, we had mixed predictions. Thursday, we had Nasdaq up, Dow Jones down. On Friday, it reversed. So basically, only one day of the week. Wednesday is when the market went up exactly as predicted. Then one day it was the opposite direction, and 3 of the days we had mixed results. In terms of other general predictions that I've been making on my blog for months now, is about this ongoing Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn, coinciding with various geopolitical events, disasters, problems for leaders, and increased seismic activity. And then particularly for August, the entire month pretty much, but especially August 10th through the 28th, I made prediction that we would see even stronger, probability of really strong, say, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, maybe mudslides, rock slides, and leaders being overthrown, leaders being attacked, as well as fires and explosions. And that has to do with the fact that this month, August, we're having basically these two planets, the Saturn and Pluto and Capricorn, joined by Jupiter, which makes things kind of hotter, bigger, expansion across borders, expansion across countries, legal issues, and at the same time we also have Mars forming a tense square aspect to that triple conjunction from Aries. And of course Mars is the god of war, Aries has its own sign, and it's the fire sign, so we have extra fire, extra sort of a tendency for maybe rash decisions, anger, protests, and of course this explosiveness, this fire is, like I said, being directed basically perpendicular to the this triple conjunction of the planets that have to do with maybe trying to sort of hang on to the power, in the government somewhere, or try to kind of make things stable. Capricorn is the Earth sign ruled by Saturn that's currently in there. So we're talking about things that are very stable, secure, have been around for a long time, held on to the power for a long time, and Mars is really challenging all that. And indeed, we had quite a few events this last week that were somewhat, unsettling, or that were, making many people feel nervous, anxious. We have ongoing protests in many parts of the world. For example, we had recently elections in Belarus, and now there's a lot of pressure on Lukashenko, who had won, I think, for the 6th time in a row, to step down. And the protests are ongoing, and now there are discussions about potentially their constitution being rewritten and the new elections happening. And indeed, this aspect, both this year as well as this month, is really not favorable for people who are in power for a long time to continue to be in power. It's actually more favorable for leaders to be overthrown. So we'll see what happens, but it definitely is not looking favorably as far as astrology goes for leaders, again, such as Lukashenko, who have been hanging out for power. Same thing, this week, even though I'm talking about predictions for last week, but I did just hear that there was a turmoil in Mali where the president also was overthrown or stepped down because of some were escorted, by military. So going back to the past week predictions, we had, of course, also riots in Bengaluru, India. 3 killed, 110 arrested, some anti-Muslim posts, sparked some riots. And then we also had ongoing protests against Netanyahu in Israel, continued protests in USA and Portland, and also after a deal was signed between, Israel and UAE, we had also on the 16th of August, we had some protests in Palestine. I also specifically predicted potential problems for leaders again, both this entire year, even starting in 2019, and those would have to do with, like I said, old leaders who were in power for a long time, stepping away or being disposed, but also this particular month, increased probability of these leaders being attacked or suffering an incident or accident rather. And we did have on the 10th of August news about a shooting near White House, and Trump's press conference had to be interrupted. He had to be escorted out. Also on the 12th of August, similarly, in the nearby, U.S. Air Force nearby base in Virginia, U.S. Air Force helicopter had to basically land in the emergency situation because it was being shot at. And we also had quite a few news about prominent athletes being in either some danger or literally suffering some sort of injury, and that was exactly my prediction. So just a couple examples. On the 12th of August, there was a European championship near Moscow, and some sort of a powerlifter there basically tried to lift like 400 kg load, and basically both of his knees, were like, he fell on his knees and both of his knees got fractured, and he had to have like a major surgery after that. And then on the same day we had UFC, there was a fight, and the fighter Joe Pfeiffer suffered horrific elbow injury and was defeated. And 15th of August, leading cyclist, just a 20-year-old young man, basically they were riding, I guess, really fast somewhere in Giro di Lombardia, and basically his bike went down into a ravine, and so he fell from a really very high, I guess, mountain or hill. And on the 16th, there was also a race in Austria, and they were basically the MotoGP race, and Valentino Rossi and his teammate Maverick Vinales basically almost got crushed by two flying bikes. So again, I'm not sure how many more other incidents that were necessarily happening at the same time, but it is interesting to me, again, from the astrological perspective, that the nature of the accidents was, again, had to do with like Mars, which is why I predicted specifically that athletes that maybe are fighters or racers would be the ones affecting, because we have, you know, racing bike or motorcycle going fast and then suddenly either crushing or going down. Again, that's your kind of a square to Saturn, was because of, again, in Capricorn, because this has to do with mountains, so you're going down the mountains. Similarly, Saturn and Capricorn rule in the body, your bones, teeth, you know, spine, etc. And of course, these athletes also suffered injuries to their bones while they're trying to lift something heavy. Again, these heavy kind of rocks, metals, things that are like moving slowly. That is, again, the Saturnian kind of domain. So whenever we have Saturn and Mars, and of course in Capricorn, difficult kind of aspects, you will expect things that are maybe like very solid, but then suddenly they explode, or somebody's going really fast and then they hit the wall, etc. Let's see. There was also, of course, unfortunately, a railway accident in Scotland on the 12th of August, where the passenger train derailed, and subsequently they had looked, and unfortunately there were mortalities. Subsequently, crash investigators, they were able to look at the cause of this incident, and they saw that basically the train struck a landslip that covered the track. And of course, again, we have this something that's moving fast and hits suddenly an obstacle. And again, we're talking about soil, which is, again, the Saturn to Capricorn has covered and prevented Mars. This is this moving fast kind of, you know, projectile, moving fast object is a perpendicular, you know, square aspect to this Saturn in Capricorn, of course, conjuncted by Pluto and Jupiter. Jupiter has to do with like transportation, long distance travel, etc. So definitely these incidents very much fit with the transits that we are experiencing. And I guess the bad news in this case, besides the fact that we already had these tragedies, will be that this influence will be with us throughout, say, early September and this upcoming weekend, which I already mentioned in my blog that I posted for the August 17th week, that on 22nd, 23rd, this weekend, this influence will be even more intense. So definitely pay close attention and stay safe there. So in terms of earthquakes, for the week of August 10th, there are quite a few, magnitude 5 point something and even 6 point something in Philippines, Pakistan, Mexico, USA, Alaska, Tanzania, and also there was a swarm of earthquakes in California around the San Andreas Fault. And even though the actual magnitude of those mini earthquakes wasn't necessarily that high, but the fact that there was a swarm, which has only occurred for the 4th time in 88 years, is definitely noteworthy, because sometimes such swarms can be precursors to a larger earthquake. And should such earthquake occur, as I said, unfortunately and I'm not predicting actually this earthquake at this time. However, there may be still larger earthquakes in general, including in the areas where we had these tremors or smaller size earthquakes. There may be follow-up aftershocks or slightly larger earthquakes. Still, I would say increased probability through the end of through the maybe early September, and especially 22nd, 23rd, maybe 24th of August, and then maybe 28th through like August through the 4th of September. Let's see, so that's, and of course we had some other events, such as we had this Indonesian volcano erupting on the 10th of August. Let's see, we also had a bunch of fires. 10th of August saw the Taisley plastic factory be engulfed by a large fire after an explosion. We also had exactly on the same day, on the 10th of August, major like derecho in Chicago in the US. Even though of course that was not a fire, but again we have this really like weather that's more destructive than usual, and subsequently there are multiple states in the US that suffered some problems due to this derecho, and there was only about over 1 million without power still as of the last few days, so like a week following this derecho. And then we also had on the 16th of August a incident in Mogadishu where there were gunmen exploded a car bomb and stormed a hotel. So again, multiple deaths and injuries there. So definitely a lot going on. Oh yeah, and we also had, of course, news on the 15th of August that President Trump's younger brother, Robert, died. And again, unfortunately, these ongoing aspects through the end of the year, and especially in August, definitely are such that there will be more such news potentially in the upcoming few days, few weeks. And let's see, for USA, for the last week of the 10th of August, I also made specific prediction that there may be increased news about like governmental leadership changes and sort of news around like about rates, debt, bankruptcies, loans, problems with taxes, etc. for various companies, especially those related to retail, sales, communication, and transportation, social media, etc. And on the 12th of August, there was news that Steinmart had filed for bankruptcy and is going to close its 300 stores. And another prediction that I made also specifically for US for last week, or rather 13th through the 21st of August, is that there's going to be increased probability of news where there may be positive news regarding like or announcements of favorable international deals, or related to, again, foreign relations or import-export, long-distance travel, or some improved conditions in those areas. And we did have, of course, major news on the 13th of August, where basically that Trump announced that Israel and United Arab Emirates had restored the diplomatic ties, and they inked a deal that basically where Israel would temporarily shelve the annexation of West Bank and Jordan Valley, and would focus on, I guess, expanding ties with the countries in the Arab world. So indeed, there was this manifestation, and that one is under the, I guess, positive aspect that will continue for the US through about the 21st of August. And lastly, I made a prediction that was specific for China, that 9th through the 17th we'll also see some problems, and I guess the entire month of August, but especially 9th through 17th would have also some issues there where it will be again problematic, maybe weather or some disasters, and increased news related to like oil, pharmaceuticals, navy, water, pollution, chemicals, etc. And there was news, I guess, on the 12th that basically there was a major deal signed between an Abu Dhabi National Oil Company and a China's National Offshore Oil Corporation. I guess some of the ownership rights over certain offshore concessions were transferred to this Chinese company, and I guess that's sort of continuation of the China's policy of kind of increasing its, I guess, foothold in the Middle East, as far as like having more ownership of, I guess, either companies or projects that are involved in oil production. And as I'm recording this already the week of the 17th, I did see some news from China that there was really major flooding there, where they had to evacuate about 100,000 people, and they're trying to, I guess, take some measures to protect a really major old, I guess, monument like Feet of Buddha somewhere. I'll talk, I guess, about it more next week. I took a note of that for the next week's prediction. So definitely, as I said, I think quite a few predictions have come true. The stock market directions wasn't necessarily completely accurate. I think my prediction is a little bit more accurate for Dow Jones, because that's what I used to, I guess, for the analysis of basically the correlation between aspects and the stock market directions. But we did have quite a few, unfortunately, serious events that were like disruptive, to put it mildly. And unfortunately, because of this aspect between transiting Mars in Aries, squaring, which is a tense aspect to Jupiter and Pluto and Saturn in Capricorn, we will definitely continue seeing more outbreaks of various problems, including anti-governmental protests, incidents, maybe disasters, definitely earthquakes, maybe even mudslides, things of that nature. Something where you have this hot, fiery energy trying to go through, make some change, but it's hitting the wall, or it's trying to be, not trying, it's getting suppressed, or you have this really, somebody who's in power like Lukashenko trying to hang on to their position, and there may be again somebody else, some other entities trying to displace them, but through force, through attack, through some violence even. So definitely week, I would say, to through the end of the month, even try to stay safe, drive safely, and pay attention, because even if, like I said before already, your particular horoscope may not have tense transits to it, there may be somebody around you who may be under some pressure, under extra stress, and they may or may not necessarily be able to deal with that very well. So until next week, and stay safe, like I said, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye!